Today on Experiments, the body's reaction to being hit. For all we know, it looks like this, but the reality is anything but. Why is it that when the body absorbs a blow, even well-trained muscles seem to look like shapeless jelly?
And how can you break wood with your hand or glass with your head?
The potato gun. Our special guest invented this monster. We tested the first prototype to check the penetrating power of its unique projectiles. You will also learn why all metal still requires forging, and what exactly happens when a variety of objects hit a solid surface. Today we will look at strikes, shocks, and blows from a new perspective. We can all imagine what it's like to hit someone. Well, not necessarily from personal experience, but maybe from movies or sporting events. Surely everyone has seen a boxing match. But let's take a look at what actually happens to the human body from a scientific point of view. We have invited a boxer and a mixed martial arts fighter because we want to see... Yes, we want to see what happens when they hit each other. How are you planning to strike? Will your blows be weak, or strong, or in between?
We will hit each other with moderate power. But what's special here is that we will be prepared. I mean, if we strike a blow like this to someone who is not ready, it could lead to a knockout or other more severe consequences.
We will start with strikes to the body. Now, see how the process looks when slowed down about 100 times. The athlete's abdominal muscles seem to lose their shape for a few moments. It's as if the athlete were hitting pudding or jelly. A wave passes through the recipient's body each time.
We have fat on top of our muscles. This man has six-pack abs, and his other muscles are well-defined, and he has a fairly low relief compared to an ordinary person, but he still has some fat that takes up some space between the muscles, and this fat will ripple when you apply energy to it.
And yet, we are under the impression that it is not only fat that starts moving. As you know, more than 50% of the human body is water. Muscles are 75% water. That is why even a well-toned body is essentially just a balloon filled with liquid. Supersede shooting helps us see that. At normal speed, we just don't notice the motion.
All right, these were blows to the body. So what about strikes to the head? Are they considered more painful and dangerous?
Strikes to the head are the most dangerous and the most painful because, well, the head is the most important body part as it has a large number of nerve cells and they get injured easily when struck. But you will be able to show it to us now, won't you? Yes, of course we will, with every safety precaution necessary. Okay, soon as you are ready. You were easy on him. Well, of course, we'll be easy on each other. We're not trying to kill each other. But when you watch playback shot at high speed, it seems that such a strike can indeed be lethal. The face turns into a disfigured mask. Of course, the boxers are not hitting each other with maximum power, but even such practice punches are potentially dangerous.
The most frequently seen injuries include an eyebrow cut, The athlete's internal organs are affected quite heavily, like the liver, the spleen, the kidneys, and the heart. Different situations may occur, like the one with the Muay Thai fighter who died recently. He was hit on his abdomen, his ribs cracked and penetrated his heart. He died as a result of his heart being pierced by one of his ribs. This is very dangerous, so fighters are taught to protect their torso with their arms and their hands, and to keep their face covered at all times, because even a solitary punch that lands badly can be lethal.
Coming up next, hammering metal, falling objects. How can you break a wooden board with your bare hands? Or shatter a glass bottle with nothing but your skull? See all this and more on Experiments. Why is forging employed in metalworking? Forging is striking a metal workpiece many times while it is hot. What effect does it have on steel? How can things go wrong if someone does it incorrectly without being aware of the consequences? We have a lot of questions and we will answer them now. We can confidently say that humans started forging metal objects about 6,000 years ago. First, they used the cold process without heating the material, and then hot forging was invented in ancient Iran, Mesopotamia, and Egypt. Originally, they worked with copper, silver, and gold. Then with iron smelted in the bloomery process. Forging used to be the only way to give metal the desired shape. The technique reached its apex in the Middle Ages. It lost its prominence in the 19th century with the rise of industrialization being replaced by other methods of metalworking, with rolling and stamping being the most obvious. But forging survived. Speaking of the modern world, is there a need for a smithery like yours? Well, specifically here, in this forge, we make Damascus steel. Another thing we specialize in is decorative ironwork, meaning we create for decoration, for beauty. We produce beauty. So this process is used to shape metal, but what other effects does it have? Initially, steel is made by smelting and casting. Metal is produced when heat treats the ore. There are grains. Metal has a granular structure, and these grains in metal, they grow in size during the casting process. There are also some casting defects. Metal may have some micro bubbles and micro cracks in it. Primary forging is performed to reduce the size of the grains and to get rid of these defects. We can see metal before and after forging in the lab where metals are studied. This is before. Large crystals and microcavities are visible. And this is the same metal after being hammered in the forge. The crystals are small, and we can hardly see any cracks or cavities. I mean that blacksmiths do not only give shape to metals, they also improve metal. Forging makes it more solid. Its physical properties change. Speaking in scientific terms, dendritic crystalline structure is transformed into fibrous structure. It doesn't really matter what tool is used for the workpiece. There are steam hammers as well as manual ones. These are used for heavier workpieces. And if you come to a factory, you will see real giants there. These machines are enormously big and heavy.
This is called a 4-tonner.
The weight of its head is 4 tons. And the workpieces aren't exactly lightweights either. These days, practically all metal is still forged, rolled, or stamped, even on an industrial scale. It still needs mechanical treatment to alter its properties, and now you know why. Next, we are going to examine what happens when man strikes wood, objects hitting the floor, and potatoes hitting targets. We already saw how metal changes its properties when red-hot iron is struck. And we know what happens to someone who gets punched in the face. It's time to learn something new. We have invited two karate fighters and asked them to show how a piece of wood can be broken by hand. How can you break a piece of wood with your hand? Well, let's first find out how great is the force you must apply to smash this wood, theoretically. To do that, we need a laboratory and a device called the compression testing machine. It determines precisely the force required to break through various materials. Well, our wooden block collapsed at a pressure of 191 kilograms. That is exactly the same force that the karate fighter will have to apply to break this board. Why would one need to break wooden boards in the first place? Well, basically, it's meant to test how much power one can generate. The thicker the board or the more boards you use, the more difficult it is to break them.
Secondly, it shows you how well trained your limbs are. Often, people end up breaking a hand or foot when hitting the board.
Let's take a look at this. Of course, not forgetting to shoot with our high-speed cameras. When we play back the footage in slow motion, we can see a wave travel up the athlete's arm during the strike. This is repercussion, an effect after the contact of fist to wood. It appears as if the fist itself loses its rigidity during the strike. It seems that the fist will now be broken and not the piece of wood.
This is a false impression. It comes from the fact that a person hits a hard surface, and the energy which he sends is from his body. It travels from his body when he strikes. It comes across a very hard surface, and this is what causes repercussion. And the soft tissues of his body, they vibrate, trying to absorb it. Again, in order to prevent the athlete from injuring himself, to prevent the dislocation of a joint, strain of the tendons to make sure his ligaments stay healthy, and his muscles are not torn, for example.
Let's make it more interesting. Now we have several boards instead of just one. And he will employ a chop with the edge of his hand and not his fist. What strikes the eye immediately when we watch the video slowed down 100 times is what happens to the human hand during impact. The hand is literally flat in the moment it hits the wood. To be honest, when I watched this video in slow motion, for me, It was a kind of revelation to see the hand become deformed as much, because I cannot feel it myself, and this is not visible when I view the video in real time, and my senses do not tell me anything. It seems that the hand stays rigid. Yes, it does seem that your hand stays rigid, but after watching the video, you can see that it becomes deformed. These changes in the human body, when influenced by pressure, are in fact a defense mechanism invented by nature itself. We do not have a hard shell or sturdy chitinous scales. Our skin is thin and our bones are brittle. But the water that makes up our muscles and body fat is a kind of natural shock absorber for any outside interference. No matter how hard you train, one can't turn his body into stone. But it's not necessary. Without these slightly comical vibrations of flesh during the blow, any person would be injured far more often. How do falling objects behave? And just how dangerous can a potato gun really be? All this on experiments. Hey now, that's what I call breaking things into bits and pieces. Really? In this program, we can sometimes afford to be slightly immature. There is probably no such person who has never, not once, broken a cup or a plate or dropped a light bulb on the floor. What if we shoot these actions with a super high-speed camera and try to turn the resulting mess into a work of art? But it seems we got carried away. There is a common cliche in movies. The protagonist smashes a bottle or someone hits the protagonist with a bottle. How is it done? In movies and in the theater, this is called a prop. When an object looks like it is real, but it is in fact fake. This, for example, is a fake bottle. It has been made specifically to do this. Even while watching this, the eye does not notice that the bottle is not real. I actually just smashed it over my head, but it is not glass at all. People get the idea that they are made of sugar because they are called sugar bottles. In fact, there is not a gram of sugar in this. They are made of resin or of a special kind of plastic that is safe. When it breaks, it has no sharp corners or edges. That's why I can hardly cause any kind of real damage with it. Almost everything, cups or glasses that people hit each other with, throw at each other, or smash against each other, or even bite into in the movies are in fact nothing but props. They are totally safe. No one will be injured, that's for sure, but this is more expensive than the real thing. For example, a bottle like this will cost at least $50. But look how convincing the actors are when they have these objects in their hands. Are you alive? Are you okay? How are you feeling? Want to do it again? Next, we will show you the potato gun and its ability to shoot. Quite unpredictable, yet incredibly powerful. We have already seen a lot of different blows and punches. Impressive, destructive, unexpected, and creative. And now, we have something special for you. In the show, we sometimes ask strange questions, such as, can you turn an ordinary potato into a projectile? If yes, then what can its force be when it hits the target? Actually, the question becomes quite respectable once science enters the picture. Hi, Alex. Hi, Anton. I won't hide this huge rabbit in my magic hat. I will spill the beans right now. I know the name of this device. This is a potato gun. Absolutely right. It shoots with ordinary potatoes just like this one. Already charged? Yep. Can you show me how it works? Sure. Oh, snap. Holy cow, this thing packs quite the wallop. The inner workings of a potato gun. First, you push a potato into the barrel. Then you inject flammable gas into the combustion chamber. We can use hairspray. Then we ignite it with a spark we make using a stun gun. The gas-air mixture goes off and propels the potato projectile out of the barrel. A simple, yet very effective design. All we need to do is hit the target now. We have prepared a lot of ammunition and targets, but who knew that I would be the first victim of this weapon? You will have to explain everything to me because I have never held this thing in my hands before. How do you charge it? Okay, to begin with, we take off the back cover. Here, now we push the potato into the barrel on this side. How do I do that? Just take it and kind of twist it in. We used to do this as kids. And it's with this small gun that I got into trouble. We didn't test it in advance. Second, we completely ignored safety. We didn't even bring basic safety glasses. So, the outcome of this shot was both predictable and highly educational. Well, of course, I'm not too keen on shooting. No people around? No one. And? Then I went to the clinic to treat my injured eye. Photos attached. So what happened to the potato gun? The back cover of the combustion chamber gave way. During ignition of the gas mixture, the thread was broken. You have already seen the consequences. We were only able to continue our experiment a couple of weeks later. This is more proof that you shouldn't carry out any experiments without at least the most basic protection for the eyes, or better yet, for the entire face. This time, we made sure to wear these special protective masks. Absolutely right. Because Alex is the one who built the weapon, he decided to personally test the power of the projectiles on various targets. We started with a gypsum wallboard. Well, to be honest, that was quite the impressive hit. It went right through. And I'd say the projectile has not lost its kinetic force and would have reached much further were it not for this piece of wood here. Actually, I can see it did just that, in spite of that piece of wood. That means it had enough power to cover a far greater distance, despite the obstacle. As we have seen, the potato gun works quite well on empty bottles. Also, it looks very impressive when it hits a melon or a watermelon. When you fire a potato at them, the fruit literally explodes from the inside. It is not a serious weapon or anything. It's mostly for kicks. It can't break a water bottle or anything. No luck. Doesn't work. Nope. It doesn't work here. Water is not a compressible fluid, so it stops the projectile. The only thing it does is ramp up the pressure and knock off the cap. So this is what can stop a projectile like this. It doesn't even work on a chipboard. A potato gun is certainly a fun thing, even though it's not exactly safe, as we have seen. It can mess some stuff up. Actually, Alex, what I want to say after our shooting test, this gun has just as many strong points as weak points. Well, the weak points are that it is cumbersome. It takes a long time to charge. It does not always hit its target, but what a name, a potato gun. This definitely makes it worth it. Yes, Anton, this weapon is designed for entertainment, and it is quite a dangerous hobby. We have seen more than enough proof of that. That's true. But in fact, we have not fully unlocked its potential. It would take much more time and experiments to do that. Delivering a blow seems to be such a simple thing to do, and yet it has so many variations, but it is often the case with basic physical activity. They are diverse and exciting, no matter which perspective they are viewed from and what tools you use to measure them. Strikes are dangerous, but beautiful. But that is precisely why we find them so thrilling.